7. A Sydney grandmother has made an emotional appeal for the safe return of her daughter and 5 grandchildren from Syria. The problem is, this is the family of Aussie terrorist Khaled Sharrouf, who fought for ISIS and who's now believed to be dead. You know, fingers crossed he is. You may also recall that his children were photographed in Syria posing with severed heads. Australian correspondent Daniel Sutton joins me now. Dan, great to have you on the program this morning. Where are we going with this? This is Karen Nettleton. She is the mother of Tara, and she's speaking up, saying, "You've got to let my daughter and my grandchildren come back."
Yeah, Paul, she's putting the word out there to the Prime Minister, an open statement which she's released publicly saying, "Please, PM, help me get my daughter and grandchildren home. They need to be with their family, especially now that Sharrouf has apparently been killed on the battlefield with ISIS." It's just not that simple, though. These may be 5 Australian children, and they had a perfectly normal life here in Australia before their mother dragged them off to Syria about a year ago to be with their father on the battlefield. They've experienced all sorts of horrors. You talked about holding up the heads of dead people, posing with guns in front of ISIL flags, being on the battlefield. Grandma now says she wants to bring them home, but how they could possibly fit back into society here. Their old school says there's no way that they could fit back in. The Prime Minister says he won't be doing this family any favours. He's going to put the country's safety first. And the mother, Tara Nettleton, may well face charges when she returns home. And she hasn't been an innocent party in all of this,
No,
Paul. She's been
and that's important
posing
to know.
with guns.
Absolutely.
Posing with guns in front of cars, and has been absolutely by her husband's side this whole time. So the whole country now is debating, can these children be brought home? If they come home, what can we do with them?
Well, the most likely thing, under normal circumstances, if nothing changed, if Tara was allowed back into Australia, she'd be straight in prison, wouldn't she?
She would be charged, absolutely. For one reason, she's been in a prescribed area where she's not allowed to be. That's an offence under Australian law. She can be charged. What happens to the kids? Do they go into care? There must be counselling. Grandma says she'll take them. It's now going to be up to the government and lawyers to try and negotiate whether this family can come home or not.
All right, Dan, similar sort of subject. The Australian Security Intelligence Office have just released the, if you like, the epicentre of terrorist recruitment in Australia, in both Sydney and Melbourne, the suburbs that result in the highest number of terrorist recruits.
And they didn't even mean to do this. This was a blunder. The Prime Minister was touring the new headquarters of Australia's spy agency, ASIO. It's just been revamped. He was in there with the ASIO boss, Duncan Lewis, in front of television cameras and photographers. They'd all been dragged through this room as part of a bit of a show and tell. Duncan Lewis was showing the Prime Minister some glossy maps, and it turns out these are the maps that show where all Australia's foreign fighters are from, pointing out specific suburbs in Sydney's southwest, a couple of suburbs in Melbourne too. ASIO has subsequently admitted that this is a private official document, was never supposed to be released. Sensitive information all over the TV news, Paul.
Now, like Auckland, Dan, obviously, particularly in Sydney, there's a problem with house prices and that. I'm thinking that this could well bring the house prices down in Auburn, Bankstown, Punchbowl, Greenacre.
Yeah, look, house prices have never been particularly high in that area, but in Sydney at the moment, you can still pay nearly $1 million for a house in one of these suburbs. Maybe now people like me might be able to buy in.
So basically, if we're going to make it easy for people to understand, these are the Sydney suburbs that look most like Syria anyway.
Look, they have a very, very high Muslim population, a lot of mosques, things like that. But they are, you know, it's a multicultural city, and that's what we have in Sydney.
All right, now let's move to Adelaide. An Adelaide chocolate shop has found herself in trouble with the global fashion brand Chanel.
Chocolate at Number 5 is the name of this shop in a little town in the Adelaide Hills called Harndorf. Funnily enough, one of Australia's oldest German settlements. Now, this chocolate shop's been around for a little while. The new owner, who bought in a few years ago, decided she would trademark the company's logo and name. Well, she did that, thought there wouldn't be any problems, until a letter arrived from lawyers for Chanel in France. They apparently think that the logo is too similar to that of their very famous perfume Chanel No. 5, and they've decided that they would like to object to this trademark. And in fact, they have asked for her to change the company's logo or face consequences. Now, the owner of the company doesn't really want to face this fight, so she has agreed to do so. Funnily enough, the face of Chanel No. 5 is Nicole Kidman, a proud Australian. You would have thought they would give us a break.
And probably a chocolate lover. Oh, that's very interesting, isn't it? Hey, Daniel, thank you very much. Hope to talk to you again soon. Daniel Sutton,
Thanks,
our
Paul.
Australian correspondent this morning. What was that place, Hillary? Was it in Aotearoa? The place which was... that had got into trouble with Harrods.
Oh, that's
was that
right.
I think it was.
It was
wasn't
somewhere in the Central North Island, definitely.
And their issue, of course, was that they were owned by someone called Harrods. So they on the front of their shop, they just had their own name. And I think in the end, didn't they have to compromise or something like that?
Unbelievable.
Chocolate at number 5.